Hi everyone, this is Matt Andrzejewski, and I'm going to talk in this video briefly about the origins of single subject research designs with an eye to history and some examples of maybe how some of these ideas came about, and talk about ABA designs and ABAB designs and their logic and rationale and so on. So historically speaking, there are a few people that seem to have stumbled onto a type of research methodology that we might call single subject research designs. So in a 2007 paper by Robert Brown, he argues that Galen might have been the developer of the reversal design. So Galen is a Greek physician and scientist and philosopher living 129 to 200 AD. And he was treating a woman with sleeping problems. She was very agitated and very upset, and in his writings he reports this case, and he noticed that her heart raced when a certain man's name was mentioned, and this man was a dancer at a theater, Pilates, and so as he's sort of feeling her heart rate, someone came into the room and mentioned that he was dancing that night at the theater, and her heartbeat started to change. It started to increase and become a little bit racy. So that got him thinking that maybe the mention of the man and thought of the man, maybe that the woman was in love with this man, and that made this change. So the next day he returned and he set things up so that somebody would come in to the room and report that Morpheus was dancing at the theater that night. But there was no change in her heart rate when that happened. On a third day that he went to see her, he set up so somebody came into the room and mentioned another dancer at the theater that night, and there was no change in her heart rate. And then a fourth day, he set it up so that somebody would come in and tell her that Pilates was dancing again that night at the theater, and her heart rate did change. So you can see the rudiments of a single subject reversal design here, where we have conditions we might call A, B, C, and A return back to the original condition. So that's an interesting, some interesting background story with respect to him. Now, Ben Franklin was also involved in behavior change, believe it or not, his own behavior. And in his autobiography, he talks about how he wanted to become more virtuous and change his behavior a little bit. So we all know Ben Franklin is one of the founding fathers of the United States. He's a politician, a businessman. He was a scientist. He played around with electricity. He was a printer. He was a writer. He was a diplomat. He worked on a lot of different things throughout his life. But he devised this method for moral self-improvement, which he writes about in his autobiography, and he listed 13 virtues and a precept related to them. So one of the virtues was temperance, another one was silence. But then he sort of defined what they were, and he called them a precept. He didn't say this, but they're sort of like operational definitions. So in his book, it's a direct quote, he says, temperance, eat not to dullness, drink not to elevation. So he's sort of operationally defining these virtues. So silence was speak not but what may benefit other or yourself. Avoid trifling conversation. That seems like an interesting approach, and it predates what we would call an operational definition by like 150 years. S.S. Stevens in the 1900s is the first to talk about those things. And what he did was he actually made up a chart. He lined a piece of paper, he said, in red ink, and he wrote the days of the week across the top, and then his 13 virtues he abbreviated: temperance, silence, order, responsibility, frugality, I forget what all them, justice, cleanliness, But then what he did was he recorded whether he had violated one of those, and on that particular day of the week, and he would do this, and this was his method of self-improvement. So this is like a single subject research design, but he's also using this graphical display, this visual display of information, to represent what's going on with them. The person, though, that we most associate in behavior analysis with providing us a history to single subject research designs, especially reversal designs, is Claude Bernard, who's a French physiologist. He studied digestion, he studied pancreatic and liver function. He's really claimed, his big claim, or his big label that people talk about him with, is that he's the inventor of experimental medicine. And one of the things is he came back from the market and he had rabbits, and he put a rabbit on the kitchen table, and he noticed that this rabbit was urinating, and the urine was clear and acidic. And these rabbits had not eaten for some time. Now, normally rabbits have cloudy alkaline urine, he noticed. So he thought it must be something about their diet. So given that he was an expert, really, for his time on digestion and excretion and pancreatic and kidney and liver function, he knew a little bit about this. So he speculated that it was their diet. So he took the following approach. He fed rabbits vegetables and measured their urine. He then fed them, days later, boiled beef for a time and measured their urine. And then he fed them vegetables, measured their urine, and then he fed them boiled beef and he measured their urine. And what we see here is we see the rudiments, or really a type of design that we would call an AB design. So the vegetable matter being condition A, the boiled beef being condition B, and then he goes back to condition A, and then he goes back to condition B. We would call this an AB design. This happens to be with rats and their urine. Or rabbits and their urine. We would apply it to maybe human beings and various treatment conditions, but it's the same logic. So to begin with, we start with typically an ABA reversal design. An A in this nomenclature of experimental design, and A means experimental treatment condition A. And what this usually is baseline, where there's no intervention or no change. It's just the baseline. There's nothing going on, baseline, or whatever's going on is going on. We're not affecting it. B means experimental treatment condition B, and that's usually an intervention or a procedure. Or it could be some change, some significant change in a person's life, like a parent died, or a sibling moved away, or we were using a new drug. It couldn't be really anything. They got a new pet. The bedroom, they moved to a new house. You got a new job. In just about anything. It can be some major event. It doesn't have to be a condition that the experimenter applies. It could be a condition that just happens to the person. Now, A in the ABA nomenclature means a return back to baseline, or a reversal of conditions. So that's why we call it a reversal design. So if we were to start, though, go back even further to an AB design, right, where A is a baseline period and B is an intervention period, right, we might see something like this, where we take a baseline across a couple of sessions or a couple of days, and we measure the number of problem behaviors that some person is emitting, and we do some intervention. Now, at this point, you might say, well, why not stop here? Why? I mean, they clearly are getting better. These numbers are going down, which is what we want. But we don't know what has caused the change from this baseline or not. And in fact, if we had just continued measuring baseline, maybe it would just go down. Maybe it wasn't a stable baseline. So we generally don't stop here, because we want to make sure that we want to verify that the treatment condition works. So often what we do is return to baseline, and we make the prediction that the rate of this behavior is going to go back up to here. That's our prediction. If our intervention is working, then an elimination or reversal or removal of that intervention back to baseline will mean that the behavior will go back to baseline as well. And in this case, that's what happens. We return to baseline, and the rates of this inappropriate behavior go back up. So then you might ask, why stop? Why not stop here? Well, there's two reasons. There's a couple of reasons, two big reasons that we don't stop here, and we prefer ABAB designs to ABA designs. The reason why is the second return to B provides additional verification that the intervention works. So experimentally, logically, we'd be happy to see a return, a decrease in these inappropriate behavior rates, and it would verify that our intervention is working. The other reason is ethical, and that is that if the intervention is working, is making this person's life better, we don't want to eliminate it, we want to return to it, because that is the situation that is best for this particular person. So the two reasons we do this are to verify our treatment intervention is working, and two, ethically, because the person's in a more effective intervention period then. Okay, so that gives you hopefully a little bit of background, the history of single subject research designs and what ABA reversal designs do and don't do, and what ABA AB designs, the advantages of them.